Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the Bureau of Corrections suspends the release of U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton following the appeal filed by Jennifer Laude's family. Also, the lawyer of Laude's family challenges the basis for Pemberton's release. Can an American soldier benefit under the Good Conduct and Time Allowance law? Former Supreme Court spokesperson, Attorney Theodore Te. And later we find out how people can convert their plastic waste to cash. Plastic Credit Exchange founder and president, Nanette Medvedpo, tells us more live. We have breaking news here on CNN Philippines. Ardot Parohinog, the former Ozamis Mayor Reynaldo Parohinog, was found dead inside his cell at the Ozamis police station this morning. Parohinog was supposed to attend a hearing in the Ozamis City Court today. Newly installed PNP Chief Camilo Cascolan has ordered an investigation into his death. He also directed Police Region 10 Director Rolando Anduyan to immediately place the Ozamis Police Chief and all night shift duty personnel under restrictive custody. In other news, freedom for U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton will have to wait for now. The Bureau of Corrections put his release on hold because of an appeal against it. Pemberton was convicted for the death of transgender woman Jennifer Laude in 2014. Earlier this week, an Olongapo court ordered his release, but the Justice Department put the release on hold pending the decision on the appeal of the Laude family opposing it. There are also conflicting computations on Pemberton's jail time. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the Olongapo court did not heed Bucor's recommendation about the computation of Pemberton's good conduct time allowance. Roque, who had been a lawyer for the Laude family, says Bucor has also filed its. Pemberton's lawyer, Rowena Flores, says the soldier is now overstaying in jail for at least a month based on the computation of his GCTA. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have former Supreme Court spokesperson, Attorney Theodore Te. Attorney Te, welcome to the source and thank you for your time, sir.
Hi, Pinky. Good morning. Good to be back.
Nice to have you. So, U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton will not be MR filed by the family of Jennifer Laude, according to the DOJ and the Bucor. My first question is this the right process that he will not be released because of a pending MR?
Pinky, generally, whenever you have an order that is executory, uh, the other party, let's call it the adverse party, is given a chance to have it reconsidered. And generally, the court will stay the order just so that the relief, does not become moot, meaning the reconsideration that is sought. But in this particular case, let me just put it in terms of the legal process. Uh, the order of the judge here basically amounts to an extinction of the liability because under the RPC, the Revised Penal Code, the grant of good conduct time allowances may result in a partial extinction of criminal liability. And in fact, that's in the law itself, the good conduct time allowance
Okay.
law. So the legal effect of that, Pinky, is basically that as far as the court is concerned in its order, the court is saying there is no legal basis now to continue holding him in custody. So there is now a constitutional question that is implicated here, no? Because will there now be a deprivation of due process Yun yung tanong na lalabas dito eh. So
Mhm.
this would be I think an unusual situation, no, in terms of the motion for reconsideration. Generally, yes, a motion for reconsideration can stay the order in the discretion of the judge, because the judge may say, I can't put this back in the bottle. For example, if I let him go, may MR naman. But in this case kasi, the judge in her order basically said, granting the good conduct time allowance, na extinguish na yung liability niya. So there's a bigger constitutional question. And then the second question I have, Pinky, actually I have a series of questions listening to all of the coverage of this case, no. Uh, my understanding is that the motion for reconsideration was filed only by the family. Now, there is a peculiarity here because the family's legal interest, as it were in this case, is really to enforce the civil liability only. No, meaning the amount of damages arising out of the death, no, of their relative in this case. But apparently the judgment, the civil liability, has already been fully satisfied. So yun yung nagiging problema rin dito. I'm sure that the question that will be raised here will be, what is the personality of the family here, if they are the only ones that are questioning it. Now, if the DOJ comes in and says, no,
Yeah.
we support the motion, then that will be cured, no. So yun yung mga questions dito in relation to the MR filed by the Laude family.
So there's actually a question on the personality of the victim filing an MR because the civil aspect has been fulfilled.
Filing an MR, Pinky, without the participation, without the approval of the prosecutor, because under the rules of criminal procedure, the control and supervision of any criminal case is given to the public prosecutor, in this case the DOJ. Uh, and so the private
Okay.
complainant is only allowed to participate insofar as enforcing or safeguarding the private rights. In this case, the damages. Satisfied na yung damages eh. Fully
Mhm.
complied with.
Mhm.
Bayad yung damages dito
Okay.
eh. So the question that will be raised, no,
Opo.
invariably will be, ano personality kung hindi nagsusupport yung DOJ? So the question will be to the DOJ. Is the
Yeah.
DOJ basically supporting the MR?
Yeah. But there was a statement made by Secretary Roque that the Bucor has also filed its own appeal. So that needs to be understood. So let me move on though. I still need an answer to this. From my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, hindi ba pag nag-order na ang court na ng release, the subject of the order must be released? And to follow up that question, when does an MR, a motion for reconsideration, prevent an order of the judge for release?
Yeah. Again, Pinky, we go back to the revised penal code here, because in this case, the order of release amounts basically to a declaration by the court that there's no more criminal liability to be enforced. Basically, that's under Article 94 of the
Okay.
revised penal code in relation to the GCTA law. No? So, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na implicated na dito yung Article 3, Section 1, the Bill of Rights. No? There is now they can now argue that there is a deprivation of liberty without due process. Kasi
Mm-mm.
basically, the judge is saying that there is no more criminal liability to be enforced, no? So yun yung status sa ngayon. Now, whether the MR by itself, no, without any order restraining the order from a higher court should stay, question ng discretion ng judge yan. So I think here the judge is playing it safe, no, by not releasing the accused, the convict here. But of course that will lead to further litigation.
Yeah, but I want to go back to the GCTA, which was very controversial. It was investigated by the Senate. Meron na hubang in the past that you would remember na kapag may na-release under the Good Conduct Time Allowance Law, ay napigilan po ba yon because of a pending motion for reconsideration?
Not to my knowledge, Pinky. But of course, you mentioned the controversy over the GCTA, di ba? Uh, we will remember that it was also because of that controversy that orders were given for those previously released under GCTAs validly granted, no, to go back,
True.
to voluntarily go back, and there are people still detained
Right.
right now because of that order. So actually, again, this order of release of Pemberton implicates a larger issue here eh. Kasi yun yung problema dito eh. Kasi may nakakulong pa uli, no, na dapat laya na sila eh. Kasi granted yung GCTA nila eh. And so, yun yung question din dito eh. Hindi lamang si Pemberton eh.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess what is confusing is that who actually decides that a GCTA is fulfilled? Is it going to be the judge or is it going to be the Bucor?
It is the grant of the GCTA under Article 99 of the revised penal code is pretty clear, no? And the judge actually cited that in her decision. Pero ang ultimate order kasi allowing the release is of course to the judge kasi the confinement is by virtue of the judgment rendered by the court, no? But yung question kasi of whether the time allowances and to what extent the time allowances are given, that is a factual question, meaning it is the director of the Bucor, the chief of the
Yeah.
Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, or the warden of a particular jail who will grant the allowance. Now, ang question kasi ng allowance, dalawa yan eh, no, legal, no. Una, entitled ba siya to the GCTA under the revised penal code? And pangalawa, kung entitled siya legally to the GCTA, meron bang factual basis for the GCTA? Meron nga bang good conduct? So, yun yung question din dito eh. Apparently there were figures given, they were recited in the decision itself of the judge. Now, the question is, are those figures justified by a factual
Okay.
objective basis? So babalik at babalik doon sa question na yun.
All right. We will continue our conversation with Attorney Theodore Te after the break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to The Source. Our guest today, former Supreme Court spokesperson, Attorney Theodore Te. I want to summarize what we talked about before the break, Attorney Te. So what happens is the lawyer of the convict, let's just say the lawyer of Pemberton, first has to tell the court na-fulfill na niya yung kanyang sentensya considering the GCTA. And then, what is the step-by-step process? So, the judge actually, orders his release and verifies it with the Bucor? Paano ho yun?
The judge will probably have to ask the prosecution, no? Tama ba to? Right? So in this case, the judge will require comment, okay, or an opposition or whatever. And then whatever the opposition, whatever the document is submitted, the judge then will have to weigh. Tama ba yung sinasabi ng counsel for Pemberton or tama ba yung sinasabi ng Bucor? So in this case, if you see from the order, the judge actually agreed partially and disagreed partially. So, pero ang titimbangin ng judge dito nga, Pinky, dalawa eh. Una, may legal basis ba yung pag-grant ng GCTA? Pangalawa, may factual basis ba yung pag-grant ng GCTA? Kasi yun yung titingnan niya dyan eh. Disqualified ba to? Kung hindi siya disqualified,
Understand.
yung bang pagbawas, no? Meron bang objective basis yon? Ito nga ba ay nagbago? Kasi that's the whole premise of the GCTA, that this person
Yes.
has actually shown good conduct. So yun yung titingnan ng judge dapat dyan.
Okay. And that's where I wanted to go. How can good conduct actually be measured? Let's say in the case of Pemberton, who's detained not in the usual jail, but a detention facility inside Camp Aguinaldo. Of course, this is under the VFA.
That's a very good question because I'm actually asking that question myself. Kasi mag-isa siya dun eh. And you know, it's not a usual place of detention. And so again, what is the objective basis for saying that this person has actually shown good conduct? So yeah, that part is
And
actually intriguing to me. No, what is the objective or factual basis for that?
and another question is, Attorney Te, is it clear that Pemberton's case ay pasok po sa GCTA?
Well, again, if you go by the law itself, no, the law has specific disqualifications, no. Again, mukha naman hindi siya disqualified, no. I mean, again, I don't know exactly what you know, kung ano yung ginawa niya nung nasa loob siya ng kulungan, di ba? Basically, pero hindi naman talaga siya kulungan. Pero, you know, there are legal disqualifications. For example, what is he a recidivist? You know, all of those things. Mukhang hindi naman,
Yes.
no? So, I think the question really is, ano yung basis? Ano yung factual basis for the computation? And if you
Yeah.
remember, ito rin yung naging gulo nung naungkat itong GCTA in relation to another convict, di ba? Ano yung factual basis for saying
Right.
na nagpakita ng good conduct ito?
Pero just on a my last question, what I was trying to ask you was that ito bang kaso ni Pemberton pasok sa good conduct time allowance because he is an American who was convicted in the Philippines under this visiting forces agreement.
The VFA.
I guess my question is: there anything in the visiting forces agreement that says that yes, the VFA that actually says rather that they are convicts of such can be entitled to GCTA, or is the GCTA really just applies to every single person convicted here in the Philippines?
Well, I think the question implicates the equal protection clause, and I've heard statements that he's not entitled.
Okay.
Of course, there are people. His counsel will say he is entitled. The text of the Constitution actually says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall
Right.
any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. It's up to the court now, in a
There you
proper
go.
case probably, to determine what any person means. Does this disqualify, for example, an American under the Visiting Forces Agreement? Now, the VFA itself does not say so. It does not expressly say that the equal
I see.
protection of the laws does not
Okay.
apply, di ba? But there are provisions in the VFA, for example, that say that there are minimum
All right.
procedural safeguards that should be observed. So, yan ang question. Dahil may procedural due process na nire-require or gina-guarantee, does that automatically
Yeah.
include the substantive procedural due process guarantees? Pero open question yan, Pinky.
Former Supreme Court spokesperson. Opo. Okay, Attorney Theodore Te, sir, thank you so much for your time. Good to see you again.
Always a pleasure, Pinky. Thank you.
You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Later, find out how people can convert their plastic waste to cash. Plastic Credit Exchange founder and president Nanette Medvedpo joins us live. Please stay tuned.